Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Return Missionary Next Chapters podcast. I'm your host, Sid Bassett. What do you do when the world you know collapses just as you're trying to build a new one? Today, we sit down with Wilford Wu, a Master of Accounting student at the University of Utah. Wilford's journey spans from the streets of Beijing to the mission field in Seattle, Washington. Wilford was the first in his family to serve a mission, arriving in the U.S. with no formal English training and very little knowledge of the American culture. During his service, however, he helped plant the seeds for a Chinese-speaking community that grew from a small branch to a flourishing ward today. But the real test came after the mission. Wilford returned home to find his family business in bankruptcy and his freedom to worship under threat. This is a story of miracles at 30,000 feet, the heartache of coming home, and the unwavering drive to find a home in Jesus Christ. Hello, Wilford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Wow, it's a great honor to have you. So let me start before your mission, and we'll talk about your mission a little bit, and then just sort of some of the next chapters after your mission, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
So being the first in your family to serve a mission is a pretty big step. It's interesting for many of our listeners, when they think about going to a foreign mission, they're thinking about leaving the U.S. and going to a foreign mission. But you're from Beijing. So when you talk about a foreign mission, you're going from Beijing to Seattle, Washington, which is very interesting. So what made you decide to go, and how do you prepare for something as foreign as that?
That's a great question. And for back home, my family often take me to Hong Kong Temple, and that's our assigned temple. It's about 4 hours flight from Beijing. And that's where the only chance I got to see the missionaries, and not often because the temple just across the street from the mission office. And often back home, when we invite friends to participate in the gospel, when they choose to be baptized, often they also need to travel to Hong Kong. And that's like the memory of missionary work or missionary life. But even with them, I still pretty unfamiliar with what mission look like. And I remember around 17 years old, my father started to give me more encouragement because mission has been a goal since primary. And at that time, my father was the branch president, but I see him always my father. And all, just often he like, oh, 18 birthday is coming up, and probably you need to work on a paper. There are a lot of work need to be done before you turn it in. And at the beginning, I feel like being pushed, and I don't feel willing. As he more push me, and then more I like, take my time. But end of the day, I reflect. I remember when about 6 months till my 18 years old birthday. And one day I sat with the friend in my branch that we grew up together. We talk about this conversation about serving a mission because we all similar age. I think the encouragement and also the desire of see the gospel in our life, and also to discover the world with how does the gospel and the church being functioned or worshipped in a different country, and also the joy to share with other people. That has been the force that actually pushed me to started my paper even 3 months after that. It's like 3 months before my 18 years old birthday.
Wow, that's incredibly brave. It's impressive that you had those limited experiences with the missionaries, and yet still you decided to take that step to put in your papers. So I'm curious, when you put in your papers to serve and they were submitted, did you assume you would serve somewhere other than China?
Okay, actually that's very exciting uh, question, because for China, the mainland part is not yet opened, and with no guarantee I'm not gonna run into someone that I know. Like, I don't get the blessing to serve in the home country, but also have the blessing to go abroad. And I think also mission department has been very intentional for the missionary who from China. They want us to learn the church language, which is English. And there are 5 countries on the list. We know we will go either one of those. Canada, United States, New Zealand, Australia, or British area. And I remember I was praying really hard. I want to go either go to UK, have a beautiful British accent, or come to US and closer to the pioneer history.
That's pretty exciting. When you opened up the call to Seattle, you probably didn't know a lot about Seattle, Washington, did you?
No, only all of the movie.
Only for the movie.
Yes.
That's great. Well, so let's fast forward a little bit. You did prepare yourself? You were called to Seattle on your route to Seattle. Apparently, you had some sort of a miracle. Your first miracle happened to you. What was that about?
Yeah, I remember when I got my call and later I got the call a month before I turned 18. So that's also a preparation towards leaving on the mission. But on the way to Seattle, and somehow that day, my ear, when the flight start prepare landing at SeaTac, my ear was like my right ear was extremely hurt. And I remember hurt till a point I feel like a migraine and just couldn't move my jaw. And I know it's caused by the pressure, but another thought coming in my mind is, Father Wu, you are get set apart by the district president already. And even we saw the name tag, you are missionaries and you are going to perform Lord's work. And that was the very first prayer that intentionally being said on the way to MTC. And I remember in that prayer, I said, I know I'm being set apart as missionary. Right now, my ear feel like gonna pop. And I said, God, I know after I say this prayer, the pain will go away.
Mm.
Lesser than a minute. And all those hurt feeling has been gone. I was able to drink some water and getting ready to to land. That was the first miracle. And I know after that prayer, wow, God is listening.
Wow. I can feel how personal that was to you. You know, others might think, well, that's a coincidence. You drink water. That's what you're supposed to do. But to you, that intentional prayer that you offered, petitioning to God the Father, was answered for you in a miraculous way. I love that.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. So now, fast forward a little bit longer. So you're now landing at SeaTac in your mission field. This was something that you told me I thought was very interesting. You said when you arrived at the airport, immediately the mission president changed your assignment. That doesn't happen very often right there at the airport. Why don't you tell us more about that?
Okay, actually, that was the second time. It was second time to SeaTac and was from Salt Lake, the MTC, back to SeaTac Airport. And I don't know because everything is very new to me. I got an assigned travel companion. I stay with him, and well, I saw mission president and his wife, the mission parents. I'm really excited. With 10 weeks English training in MTC, so at that time I was able to speak a little bit. While we were waiting for all the missionary come together, actually President Schofield called me out in the group. Like, Other Wu, how's your English? Have you been working on it? And I remember I said, still no good. And stand beside President Schofield, there was 3 assistants. And he said, don't worry about it. You're going to speak Chinese for a while. So I still, I wasn't get what's going on. I called English. No, I cannot speak Chinese. Okay. Just give me assignment. I'm ready. But that day, on the way back to the mission office with our luggages, I realized what was the actual meaning to speak Chinese for a while. He was trained by one of his assistant, Alder Jennings, and because it was the last 12 weeks for Alder Jennings, he also excellent missionaries, and he know how to do the work. I only know how to share my testimony in my native language, Chinese. So mission president put us together, started the first Mandarin area on Mercer Island, Washington. So brand new area. So I was assumed that's what mission actually gonna be like. Like I thought it was normal until later my other missionary said that's not a normal start at all.
No, it is not. I can agree with those other missionaries. I love the idea that you had one missionary. I assume that he didn't speak Chinese or wasn't very polished. Okay. So you had one missionary who didn't know Chinese, one missionary who did. One was very seasoned, one was brand new. And you put those together and you had a powerful combination. I think that's real inspiration there from your mission president.
Yes.
So you sort of then, by assignment, started a Chinese area or group or branch, I guess, whichever that was for you. But so tell us what that was like.
Okay. So I remember on the first day, on the way back to apartment, just get excited for the mission, brand new. Like we mentioned earlier, I don't know what type of question should I ask or what type of question I should not. So some question that I asked to other Jennings, it was like, others, do we ever have a car in this mission? And our apartment gonna be like, do we live with other missionaries? So that was the question, that very greeny question, and none of mission related. And he was being very patient and to explain to me. And so opened up apartment, brand new. We were the first set of missionary live there, like clean kitchen, no area book. I remember in MTC, the teacher mentioned about it. When you go in a new area, study from the area book. Back in the day, still have the physical one. And so you can find some people to visit and start from there. We no area book. We only have an empty binder. My trainer told me, "Are you ready to work?" I thought the first day gonna be like a vacation day to set myself ready. I was ready to take a nap because it would wake up so early from MTC. And he took me to Factoria, which is South Bellevue. And we did some fine street contacting. And he showed me what's the actual meaning, talk with everyone. It means he showed me an example and I gonna talk with everyone. I got scared a little bit.
I can't imagine why, Wilford.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. He took me to this bus stop. And before we approached the bus stop, he said, "Other, we're gonna talk with everyone, right?" I said, "Yes." And we thought we're gonna work together and take in turns. He said, "I will show you the first one, how to be done." But I wasn't expecting, when I stuck with my limited English phrases that I memorized in MPC, he was just standing there and smiling, encouraging me without saying a word, just like a big, beautiful smile, like you can do it. And I think that's also pushed me to out of the comfort zone. So later I was able to feel much more comfortable to talk to people.
Having done that myself in Spain, I remember thinking to myself, what is my companion doing? He was Spaniard. He didn't step in to help me. I stumbled over my words. It was the scariest thing that I'd ever done and
Yeah.
and quite humbling, to be honest with you. So sounds like you and I had the same trainer, just a few thousand miles apart. So
Yes.
that's funny. Well, okay, and you had a successful mission. Obviously, your family helped start a branch in China, Beijing, and now you're starting a new branch there in Seattle. So you come home after a successful mission, and a lot of missionaries do struggle somewhat. In fact, part of the reasoning for this podcast was just to give, return missionaries examples and stories and maybe inspiration or at least something to resonate with in their own lives. But a lot of missionaries do come home and struggle with this what I call this post-mission blues. But you returned to your family, and there was a business that you had had as a family that had now gone bankrupt. It wasn't in the place it was before. And so this heavy financial crisis was sort of a burden that you had to take on as a family member. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yes. So fast forward, I loved my mission so much, and I still remember because my visa ended a week before the transfer day. So I have to finish my mission on the week 5 of the last transfer. And I remember I talked to my mission president and I said, I want to finish my mission. Can I extend one more transfer or one more week? Because he's the judge. That's the exactly word he said. Father Wu, you do not challenge with the law of the United States of America. You're gonna go home on the exactly day I told you. So, but that was a fun joke. But he said the one serious thing that you need to do is before you board the flight, you need to take off the name tag. So that conversation, the interview till that point, actually, I suddenly feel my heart little heavy because it was a direct flight. And all the cabin are going to land in Beijing. We don't know who is the passenger on the flight. So that was one thing mission president encouraged me to do or commanded me to do. So therefore I took out my name tag, put it inside my suit pocket since then. Even then I already feel mission such a great and joyful experience and able to become many people's family and through the gospel. And also many people able to become my family members. And but also with a unknown feeling because the last 2 weeks of my mission, I didn't receive any email from home. And I did mention to mission president about it at the interview because he said, who gonna pick you up? I don't know. How can you don't know? I haven't been receiving email for 2 weeks. I don't know what's going on. And our mission president said, God will take care of everything just like he did throughout your mission. So with that, I went back to Beijing. I realized my parents was there, but on the way home, of course, joy, happy. And I remember my aunt, my mom's older sister, also like my mom to me also. She has been always the very faithful, encouraging person in the family. And she said, tomorrow is Sunday. I don't think I'm gonna go to church for a while. And then later I was asking why and start pondering and listen to what they say. And they has been shared with me like, oh, just like little more than half a year before you finish your mission, the family business start go through trials and going through bankruptcy. And with that post-mission culture shock, a month later, I found myself with my family in the courthouse already in Beijing. And I remember at that time in the courthouse, I was thinking, literally on the mission, I was sharing a message of joy and hope. And now I see my family going through those hardships and people fight through court, trying to come those arguments that actually they know is not true. And sometimes make me feel just like a joke, laugh just crazy. And it was depressing, I will say. So because of that, my family has been encouraged me to go back to school, go back to BYU, and we're a temple close by. you can still consistently feel the nourishment of the spirit. But at that time, I just said no. I said I don't want to put financial burden on all of us, and I said I'm gonna work. So started from there. I worked for 4 years before I actually go back to school.
Wow. It's amazing that they had the courage and the love for you to say, go do what's best for your life. Go and be a part of the gospel that we all love, but right now we're not feeling as much love because of our personal circumstances. I love that. I love that relationship you must have with your parents and their love and hope and dreams they have for their son. And so you did that. You left, you went out to school to BYU, and you were obviously very successful there as well. And so I struggle with this idea of family. And do you leave your family to go try to strengthen your family, or do you stay with your family, to strengthen your family? And we had a lot of missionaries do that same thing when we were serving. And it is sometimes the irony that by leaving the family to be, the success that you became, you can then turn around and help your family. Have you been able to help your family since now you're traveling? Now you've graduated school, you're getting your master's at the University of Utah. How have you been able to help your family along the way?
So I do see many miracles along the way, even through the 4-year work after my mission. And it was the intention of working for a while. It was to reduce the financial burden and also to help family turn around in that time. But the first 2 years, well, I was working in the family business, try to help the best way I can. But I realized other than giving me more and more discouragement through the reality of the business world, my skill is incapable to do those things. And I have to have a place to sharpen my skill and to learn and grow. And so that's when I decided to move away from home, but still in China, like in Hangzhou and the Shanghai area. And who knows, God has been so watch over this process. And the company that my friend introduced me to had an interview with my boss. My boss is graduated from University of Utah, non-member, Chinese. And he saw my application, the resume, like, oh, you have 2-year volunteer service in a foreign country. Are you a Mormon? That's what he said. I said, yes, I'm the church member and headquartered in Salt Lake. And he said, that's where I got my degree. And since then, he has been helped me a lot, not just like an older brother to work with me and in the professional career and like a mentor and even financially. And I was just an intern, and he was able to give me a end-year bonus, like just 4 months into the internship. I was very unexpected. So through this 4-year process, I was able to save up a little bit and also go to BYU Hawaii, work and receive my education there, and didn't put burden on family at all, I feel. And also I have a younger sister at home. Right now she is middle school. Often I try to encourage her to, get ready for your English so you don't experience the challenge at beginning of my mission, and because she desired to serve mission also. Now I taking the master program, which next year I'm gonna be graduate and applying internship and jobs, prepare getting my CPA by next October, and also talk to my family. They feel like great. It's great. They feel like finally our family have a master graduate.
I'm sure they are so proud of you. It seems like, you've done every time I've spoken to you over the years, it's always about your family. You always want to talk about how they're doing, how the church is, how both they're struggling, but their successes too. And I always applaud you for putting first things first. And God and family has always been your first thing. And it's going to be wonderful to see the next chapters as they unfold for you, because no doubt they're going to be inspired and helpful to many people. So let's now. You covered many of the points that we had talked about. I'm curious about. There was a time, where you said that you kind of wanted to get back to where you are now. I don't know what now is and how you define that, but what were some of the lowest points of your life, and what was the thought that just kept you going forward?
That was during the 4 year, well, after my mission,
Mm,
because the first 2 year, 2020, 2019, 2018, and at that time, I work at home with my family and got a lot of discouragement. Also, I don't want to go too so deep because of the bankruptcy, and also do with some member of the church
mm,
and even some of the friends that worked with my family, and because the collaboration over the years, they were able to baptize and join the church. And now come to a financial crisis, come to a business bankruptcy, and they seems like turn around like, oh, aren't you introduced the gospel to us? Aren't you should be better in the way that I think you're supposed to be? So
mm,
it was a phase. It was a time to test my faith, and but it was so long over the 2 years. And I remember one day I just feel so stressed out and so discouraged about all of this. And I went on this travel just by myself. At 2 weeks, I don't know where I'm gonna be tomorrow, and just travel around Shanghai, Hangzhou area, and that's where the general location I was thinking to move to. I remember after being feel so alone, helpless, and no, I want to come back to BYU, and at that moment just couldn't. I can't feel to leave family behind. At the same time, I feel like there must something I can do. But however, still feel the strong loneliness in my heart. And after this almost 2 weeks trip, my family even don't know where I gonna come home. So when I remember when the day I come home, open the door, nobody. I don't know where they at, and they didn't tell me either. And that day I remember was a Saturday night. And I called one of my friends, and it was the dumbest idea ever. I grabbed a bottle of drink, and I feel like, there are a lot of people drink when they feel challenged.
yeah.
So that day, I really don't know what should I do in that point. So I did drink a bottle of alcohol, and the first time I ever never tried it before, and but it wasn't a good experience. I feel like that was a very turning point. So I was that night, I had a bad headache all night long. I didn't really sleep well. And next day is Sunday. I was like, oh, my family is all of town. I even don't know. I called my family. They said, oh, we are in a different city, and we'll come back on Monday. So even Sunday, I get ready. I feel like, you know what? Life can be discouraging, but really based on my perspective. And God always there. And I do still believe all those friendship and relationship and connection testimonies and the miracles that I was experienced on my mission. So I said to the only person can make a difference other than Christ's help have to come from my choice. And next day I went to my branch president. I came to church. My friends was funny. My friends like, you smell drunk. I said, I don't want to talk about it. So I went to my branch president. And that was the point when I talked to President Na. And he was able to offer support and accountability and to help me to, because myself often when it comes to a challenge, I always just leave myself alone and reflect or go camping, go to the places nobody knows and no one know where am I, and then I just think. And have my branch president was able to, like a buddy, to check on me often. How are you doing? How are you working progress towards your goals? I feel he was a great companion. Feel like that able to help me. And also there is uh, another part of the the story, like the understanding that later I read a book from Other Bettner. I learned, I quote, true faith is always focused in and on the Lord Jesus Christ, in him as the divine and only begotten Son of the eternal Father, and on him and the redemptive mission he fulfilled. That through Christ, and I feel I was able to feel more hope and like the burden that being lifted, because at that point I was so tired to fighting just by myself or fighting with myself.
You know, it's one thing to talk about the atonement of Jesus Christ and the power of healing that can happen when you're a missionary, but it's a different story when it's your own life and you're at your lowest point and you're trying so hard to figure out who you are and where you belong. And then to have that experience is very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. So we've got a couple more questions left. One is, what would you say to other returned missionaries who've lived far away from home to pursue their education? Because many want to stay close to home. It's easier. Maybe they can live for free with family, but then there's others who have to make that hard decision to travel far away from home. What would you tell them?
I would say counsel with the Lord with all that doing, and because everyone circumstances or the potential and the plan that God gave it to us might different. I do believe when we pray and counsel with him, and for me study the patriarchal blessing, it has very helped me, has been very specific, instructed me where to go for my college. I feel probably God know I can be quite indecisive in that moment of my life. So the patriarchal blessing was very clear. And I do know that as we have faith in Christ and to make the decision, and yes, can be scary. Think back when making the decision to move away from family, like, "Oh, what gonna happen if I need something and the people are not around, and or stay with family? I want have my own growth. I don't want my parents always see me as children around them. All those different feelings that really come to us, our decision and our relationship with our Heavenly Father. And I remember I studied and learned this belief in Hawaii. One of the general authority, he mentioned about only relationship, knowledge, and our character or Christ-like attributes that matters in the eternal perspective. And as we strive towards him, and he will help us guide along the way, but it wasn't just show us the whole path. We have to make our step little by little and have to access the faith to trust in Him.
Oh, that's very powerful, Wilford. It's interesting. No two roads are alike in our lives, but yet the constant is when we can counsel with our Heavenly Father and seek His wisdom, because maybe it is the right thing to stay close to home. Maybe it's the right thing to leave, but it only matters if you're following the path that He outlines for you. Thank you, Wilford. What a great honor it is to visit with you. I look forward to getting together in person at some point in the future, and we wish you all the best in school and in your next chapters of life.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's program. It is our sincere hope that you gain insights from these lived experiences of disciples of Jesus Christ as you navigate your next chapters in life. We look forward to having you join us each week for the unfolding chapters of our guest. Remember to follow us on Instagram at RMNextChapters for announcements and updates. Also, you can visit us on our website at rmnextchapters.com, where you can listen to each podcast directly or link to your favorite podcasting platform. As always, if you have any thoughts or feedback, we'd love to hear it. Please send them to sid@rmnextchapters.com. See you soon.